Hello guys, welcome to part 2 of Europe and impulse for exploration. So in part 1 we talked about Europe's commerce and exploration into this new world, which is the beginning of America. Today in this video, we are going to talk about rise of nation states and exchanges. So let's start off with rise of nation states. The spread of capitalism and the social and economic chaos that accompanied the decline of feudalism helped transform medieval Europe into unified nation states whose people typically shared common histories, cultures, and languages. As the populace became more organized and less dependent upon feudal ties, the growing urban middle class sought civil and financial order and stability. So we see the transfer from feudalism to capitalism, and this encouraged growth of these so-called nation states. To assure the safety of their families and livelihoods, citizens paid taxes in exchange for the services of professional armies raised by the new monarchs. In return, the national governments fostered commerce and trade that benefited the growing middle class and mercantile communities. Combined with the other changes Europe was experiencing during the later Middle Ages, strong central governments also contributed to the age of exploration and discovery. Portugal became Europe's first nation state when John I began the rule of the House of Avis around the year of 1400. The Portuguese sense of nationalism was bolstered by a homogeneous population that shared a common language and culture, as well as a geographic isolation from the rest of Europe. The common language and shared cultural beliefs unified the Portuguese people. Although much of the kingdom's population was devoted to agriculture, it had a long maritime tradition and vibrant commercial class. So these rise of nation states, first of which was Portugal, created a political structure and a economic structure. Although not the largest or wealthiest European country, a stable monarchy, an expanded navy, and a steadfast dedication to exploration helped Portugal create a trading network that encompassed several continents. Prince Henry the Navigator, as King John's younger son was known, led the way in the exploration of sea routes to Africa and Asia, in large measure because of Portugal's dominance along the African coast in the late 15th century. Other European nations, including Spain, turned to the west for economic expansion. After the unification of Portugal, the rest of the Iberian Peninsula was politically consolidated following the marriage of cousins Isabella of Castile and Ferdinand of Aragon. King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella, who ruled jointly, invested heavily in exploration and military endeavors and led the Spanish Empire to unparalleled wealth and power. In 1492, a truly watershed year in history, they supported Christopher Columbus's historic voyage to the New World, and the military forces conquered Granada, the last Islamic stronghold in Western Europe. Ferdinand and Isabella were so dedicated. Hold on, you saw my mustache there. Were so dedicated to enforcing Orthodox Roman Catholicism throughout Spain that they established the ruthless Inquisition, which expelled or executed thousands of Jews and Muslims. So we are talking about a I'm blanking right now. I'm blanking. A huge genocide because Spain wanted to spread Christianity and Catholicism. So they established these ruthless rulers that would execute thousands of Jews and Muslims. After Columbus's discovery, the Spanish monarchs were equally divided, driven to convert Indians to Christians. Therefore, the Spanish explorers and conquistadors were motivated by religious and secular impulses in carving out an extensive empire in America. Elsewhere in medieval Europe, Henry V established the Tudor dynasty in England in 1485, imposing a unified central government on the new nation-state. His son, Henry VI, broke with the Catholic Church, and following his death, religious conflicts between the English Protestants and Catholics raged for the decades. When the Protestants, Queen Elizabeth I, assumed power in 1558, England's hostility towards Catholic Spain intensified. Elizabeth secretly financed these people who raided Spanish settlements and treasure ships. Both the English privateers and the monarchy grew wealthy from Spanish booty. England's power was based on a strong and loyal navy and a diversified economy. The free flow of commerce and trade with other countries provided the stability England needed to found colonies in the New World. So we see Spanish, English funding these colonies in the New World. A succession of power struggles dominated and often hindered the political evolution of France as a nation state. During the Hundred-Year War, England controlled much of France. Encouraged by the bravery of Joan of Arc, who claimed to be inspired by holy visions, French soldiers eventually overpowered the English. I want to stop here and point something out. This is a part of Louisiana and especially New Orleans history, right? You recognize these names. Louis, I don't know how to Roman numeral, guys, but Louis III and Joan of Arc. These are people that explored New Orleans. And that's why we have the Joan of Arc statue in the French Quarter where I work part-time. And a crew of Joan of Arc when it's Mardi Gras time. So let's switch places and talk about these exchanges. Columbus's famed voyage in 1492 joined two very different worlds. For thousands of years, Europeans and Native Americans lived completely separate lives, unaware of the other's existence. When Columbus stepped onto the rocky soil of San Salvador, he started an historic chain of events that affected the lives of millions of people on both sides of the Atlantic. So, his journey, they were virtually separate from each other. They had no idea each other existed. But Christopher Columbus is gonna change that. Columbus and later explorers discovered a land unlike anything they had experienced. They encountered neatly patterned park-like settings in the middle of massive forests caused by Native Americans burning and clearing out large areas of the forest to enhance their hunting efforts. The Spanish explorers saw strange creatures including turkeys, llamas, iguanas, and rattlesnakes, which they colorfully described as snakes with castanets. Although they recognized the dog, they never imagined that anacondas, vampire bats, electric eels, or armadillos existed. The Old World explorers also enjoyed new plants and foods, including tobacco, tomatoes, potatoes, corn, squash, beans, peanuts, pineapples, and chocolate. So they are discovering a lot of these food, plant, animal groups that are known to the Western Hemisphere. In return, Columbus and subsequent European travelers introduced Native Americans to many Old World foods and animal ships. Ships filled with cattle, sheep, pigs, and horses were dispatched to the Caribbean islands, and settlers planted wheat, sugar, cane, peaches, bananas, and coffee. These crops thrived in the warm, sunny climate of the Spanish colonies. Other vegetarian, including dandelions, clover, and Kentucky bluegrass, were also brought to the New World, most likely mixed in with different seeds. The exchange of plants and animals were generally well received by people of both worlds. The Indians of western North America, for example, quickly incorporated the horse into their culture, which enhanced their proficiency as buffalo hunters and warriors. Many of the new crops became staples in the diets of the people of the New World, and eventually provided a dependable source of income for the European settlers. In the Old World, new foods, especially potatoes, helped feed a rapidly growing population. The European explorers also took advantage of several Native American creations, including canoes, snowshoes, moccasins, and hammocks, and New Worlds, among them teepee, skunk, moose, tomahawk, and chipmunk, were adopted into European languages. So this exchange of goods between the Old World, Europe, and the New World, America, was coming together very nicely. Naturally, not all the exchanges between the two worlds were positive. European voyagers brought with them pathogens that caused smallpox, measles, whooping coughs, influenza, scarlet fever, and diphtheria. Outbreaks of smallpox and measles in particular often wiped out entire villages since Native Americans did not have the antibodies to fight the deadly germs. Frequently, the diseases killed or incapacitated so many Indians they could not defend their land when the European invaders arrived. It is estimated that half of the Aztec population died of smallpox during the Spanish conquest of Mexico. So not all of these exchanges were positive. Some brought diseases. Ultimately, perhaps close to 90%, that's a big number. 90% of Native Americans died after becoming infected with Old World diseases. Entire civilizations were eradicated with no descendants to carry on their unique cultures or philosophies. Although the Indians suffered more fatalities, European citizens did not entirely escape the threat of new disease. Many travelers who crossed the Atlantic contracted syphilis from the Native Americans and spread it throughout the European population. The exchange of animals, plants, and diseases thereby transformed both American and European cultures with distinctively mixed results. So, with that being said, that's it for Europe and an impulse for exploration. So the main key point of this is Europe wants to expand into the New World, and we already see them interacting with Native Americans. Next time we are going to shift topics, same time period, but we are going to talk about Spanish and French explorations. See you guys in the next one.